What's the silliest fight you've ever been in? I went to the clubs with some friends. Got loser drunk. There is a hot dog stand outside, which is every topping. I made a monstrous $8 hot dog. Took one bite and my friend smashed it out of my hands. Needless to say, the fists were flying. This is a legitimate reason for a fight. Got into a huge fight about whether the week started on Sunday or Monday. Pretty sure we broke up before ever resolving the disagreement. When I was 19, I got my butt kicked over a game of beer pong. These guys in my friend's apartment complex were having a party, so we went. I'm not great at beer pong, but I was hot that night. I won like 5 games against the bros living there. On the last game, the douchebag threw a beer at me. Then I retaliated by throwing a pitcher at him. Then all his friends jumped me and beat the crap out of me. I had cuts all over my face and a black eye. Joke's on them, though. I knew where they lived, and they didn't know me. Their second floor balcony was easy to climb up on, so I took a crap on it 5 times over the course of the next year. I don't condone vandalism, and I'm certainly past that point in my life, but the best thing to do with poop is to get it underneath the car door handle. Before my brother left for college, he started doing this thing where he would never replace the toilet paper roll if he used the last of it. It was never really a huge problem, but it did start to bug me. I got to the point where I would take the empty roll, throw it in his room, and just got a new one. He didn't like me throwing the trash into his room, so he would take the new roll I put in the bathroom and hide it in his room. And every time I had to go to the bathroom, I'd first go through his room until I found the toilet paper. Oh, and we never once spoke a single word about it. Passive aggressiveness at its finest. My girlfriend of about a year and I lived together had a pretty good relationship overall. One day, we're getting my car out of the garage and I guess I had the radio up pretty loud the night before, but it was on satellite, so it didn't start blaring until I got out of the garage. So when it does, she starts literally pawing at the radio in a panic, like a puppy would do. It was kinda hilarious. I calmly turn the radio down and tell her to calm down and stop hitting the radio while trying to grab her hands very gently. She flips out about how I guess I'm not allowed to touch your radio and stops talking to me. We were heading to her parents' house, so it only got more awkward. That part pisses me off. So then we're both not talking on the way home. A huge blowout ensues when we get home, but it's 100% about this radio incident. We didn't bring up anything else. She then calmly walks into my room, logs into her MySpace and types up a message. It was to me, and she was breaking up with me over MySpace, with me in the other room. She moved out within the next week. It sucked then, but in hindsight, if she would have left over that, good riddance. Dodge a crazy train, my friend. I was 12, living in a poor area. There we 2 decent sized house with a common backyard that we shared. Obviously I lived in one and another family in the other. Background story, it was trash day. One day, the next door neighbor's kid, who is about a year older than I am, starts to pick on me. He had always picked on me since I had moved in, and this day he was looking for a fight. He kept grabbing my shirt and telling him to punch him, pushing me around, calling me all sorts of names. My mom wasn't home, and it was a Saturday, so if I went inside, he still wouldn't have bothered me by throwing rocks at my house. I didn't want to fight, so I went inside to get a drink, and for some reason went back outside. As I went outside, I took a glance at the clock, 3:30 p.m. I got back outside and the kid is still there. He knocks my drink out of my hand and starts berating me again. I took it for another 10 minutes until I finally had enough. I punched him score in the neck and he dropped to the ground gasping for air. Another neighborhood kid was there and he jumped in, but I was already turned around about to leave. I hear the guy call my name after about 5 steps and I turn around to see him heaving vacuum at me from about 10 yards away. I don't remember it striking me, but I woke up laying next to my house with a giant gash 3 inches from my eye and a swollen right face 2 hours later. TLDR. I was 12 and had a vacuum cleaner thrown at me that knocked me unconscious. You should feel good for getting that kid into shot put. Probably when my husband ate the center part of my cinnamon. I was so mad. That is the best part of the whole dang thing. What salt I should be using when I cook? I like the sea salt grinder that we have, and my SO thinks I should be using table salt. The most yuppie fight in existence. My kids love this story. A buddy of mine and I were fresh out of Marine Corps boot camp and assigned to Camp Pendleton. We went to Oceanside to a bar and saw two lovely ladies. Being 19, I'm old, the drinking age was lower then, and full of ourselves, we proceeded to tell the ladies that they had the luck to be with us tonight. Yes, we were those guys. They told us thanks but no thanks. Then their boyfriends showed up. We went directly into Bantam Rooster mode to fight them for the right to take home their ladies. Yes, I know how dumb that sounds. The two guys were fairly small but sturdy. Plus they kept saying things like, "Guys, let's not do this." But we did anyway. We threw the first punches but none of them landed. These guys fricked our worlds up. We kept getting up and shut back down, with pain. After finally realizing we were beaten, the two guys helped us to our feet, offered to buy us drinks and we slinked away like the losers we were. It turns out there were SEALs on leave. That was the last time I started a fight with anyone and that was 27 years ago. SEALs are some of the most modest men ever. Helps keep 'em sneaky. 2. One time in junior high a friend and I came to physical violence over the optimal shape of the Death Star. Secondly, in junior high in my programming class we had to make a virtual mall program where people could shop, and it required a food court. My partner wanted a fricking Arby's and I was having none of it. Again, came to physical violence. The group dissolved, and we had to spend the rest of the year flying solo on all our projects. I'm curious as to what the different arguments were on the Death Star's shape. My husband and I both get grumpy when we're hungry. I once popped into a 7-Eleven for something unrelated and decided to purchase their last eclair to split with my husband. When I got back to the car my husband was peeved because I only got one item, assuming it was just for me. When I insisted it was to share he didn't believe me, and that I should have gotten 2 eclairs or no eclairs. I got so frustrated that I threw the eclair against the windshield. Then we both had a moment of clarity and laughed at what had just transpired. It is now known as the eclair incident. More like a moment of eclarity. Not my fight, but I was at a party my senior year of high school getting drunk with friends and Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, Kevin Costner, was on the TV in the basement. 2 of my friends had been getting drunk and fighting a lot lately for no particular reason. One of them was watching the movie on the couch by me when the other one came down the stairs when this exchange took place. Verbatim. Friend 1, this movie sucks. Friend 2, frick you. They then proceeded to throw punches and wrestle around the basement, knocking one girl into a Christmas tree that broke a window and accidentally punching another girl. I was on the couch laughing my butt off the whole time. I'd like to take a side, but both parties provided airtight arguments. I was in 7th grade, in a choir class before it started. A larger kid named Donnie, and by larger I mean he was significantly so, sort of a grime muck of the middle grades, about as tall as I am, which is no easy featuring. I always carried a sketch pad with me. On this fateful day Don decided to take it from me and systematically laugh at different sketches of mine. They were all horribly nerdy, Pokemon or Dragon Ball Z, possibly even flowers or plants. Long story short, he didn't give it back, so I punched him in the nuts, grabbed my sketchbook, hit him again just for good measure. I was suspended for 3 days. Sounds reasonable. Went to karaoke one night at my local dive. Late in the night a guy gets up to do Kelly Clarkson, ducks it all up and mumbled the entire song. He walks back to the bar, defeated. A guy on the other side of me says something along the lines of, "Well, that sucked." The singer thought I said it and proceeds to call me a F for 15 minutes. I ignore it to the best of my ability, but a man can only be relentlessly name called for so long. I finally tell him to frick off, and I guess that was what he was waiting for, and he stood up to fight. I stand up to and motion to the bartender that shot is about to go down. He swings. I block. He's hammered. I'm slightly buzzed. I swing back and follow him to the floor. I get a few good shots on him and the fight gets broken up. The guy's eyes already swollen shut and dripping blood. The best part is that he gets kicked out and I get to stay. The bartender even buys my wife and I around. Apparently the guy starts fights all the time. TL. DR. Some guy fights me over karaoke. Ducks it all up. You know the bed feels warmer. Sleeping here alone. You know I. Quack quack quack. Quack 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 quack. I once got in a fight with my dad. Not just an argument, but a full-blown fight that ended with him ordering me out of his house. It started over whether Mel Gibson's Apocalypto was offensive. 8th grade. My friend had this slight behavioral issue and one day as a joke decided to rip my folders and notebook out of my hand and throw them in the nearby urinal. I never have, and so far actually never been into a fight. However, I was not going to stand for this. Now this is before I blossomed socially and financially and was in a crappy part of my life. So I was the pudgy unpopular poor kid in my school until 9th grade. Anyway, he was also unpopular and poor. But this was right when the Matrix came out, so on top of this he always wore a long leather coat to be like Neo. So there we are. Lowest nerdiest. Did I mention we both were huge into Pokemon? Kids having a scuffle. I jumped on his back when he dropped the papers. He starts screaming bloody murder and runs out of the bathroom with me on his back, out of the bathroom and into the cafeteria. I don't know what to do, so I just hang on. He slams me against the wall. I jump off and push him, and he falls onto a lunch table, totally landing on about 3 lunch trays of the popular 9th grade girls table. He grabs a tray and throws it at me, resulting in mashed potatoes, gravy and I'm sure some assistant veggie landing on my clothes. After this the fight gets broken up, and later that day we sat in the back of study hall comparing and trading Pokemon cards like nothing ever happened. Assistant vegetables are the best kind of vegetables. Oh, in high school driving home with my friends. 10 years ago, my car, so my choice of music. CCR is playing on the radio. My metalhead friend is bizarre. He's like the hipster of metal. He listens to the most obscure metal bands. He was saying you've probably never heard of them before people were saying you've probably never heard of them. Anyway, it's Bad Moon Rising. And he says, man, these guys suck. Hey, it's CCR. These guys are great. No man, he sucks. He's got nothing on. Some metal band from Butlodia. Now he's been doing this hipster metalhead thing for weeks. And by this point I've had enough. He's trashed every band anyone listens to because it's not some subgenre of metal. I flip out. I swerve and stop the car on the side of the road, get out, and freaking yanking him out of the passenger seat. The whole time I'm yelling about how CCR is a landmark band, and if he's going to disrespect CCR he's going to disrespect me, blah blah blah. I shout, now you walk home, mother, and I drove away. I actually only went like 50 meters before I stopped and let him back in the car. I don't even like CCR that much. The year was 2007. Halo 3 was set to be released in late September. Being juniors in high school at the time, we loaded up on MTN Dew game fuel and junk food in preparation of the weekend ahead of us. About 8 of us went over to our friend Jason's house for the festivities. His parents were out of town or something. Luckily our friend Adam brought a 50 feet ethernet cable so we could link our two boxes from one floor to another. Needless to say, Adam's dad came to pick him up at midnight. Lack of dedication. And he wanted to take the ethernet cord home. Blurred by the rage of 8 game fuels spiking insulin levels in my body, I started yelling at him without thinking. He was only a sophomore, but was on the wrestling team and had been wrestling for years. I yelled something about his cauliflower year in rebuttal to him calling out my sister, and that's when crap hit the fan. I let the game fuel monster inside of me take over and we just threw a couple of punches and shoved each other down until we were separated. Probably 5 seconds later, the aftermath was that we'd wedged an entire Christmas wreath into the drywall of this house and had to repair it the next day. You'd better goddamn believe that the ethernet cable stayed at the house though. I remember my cauliflower year well. Stares out window, wistfully, swirls glass of cognac absent-mindedly. One time I farted next to my girlfriend and she threw up because it smelled so bad. She yelled at me for like 2 hours. It was worth it. Achievement unlocked. Vomit comet. Years ago I was at a party and as usual being drunk and obnoxious. I apparently said something that offended a girl and she confronted me about it. I just remember telling her, well then, why don't you just punch me, as the last word escaped my mouth. She stepped in like a prize fighter and clocked me with a fist across the chin as hard as I've ever been punched by a dude. I didn't go down, but I just stood there slack-jawed wondering what the frick just happened and feeling a bit silly because I had decidedly asked for it. At that moment, a guy I knew to my left started laughing his butt off. This guy was the quintessential prick that everybody wanted to punch anyway, and being that there is no way I could ever hit a girl, even if she had just clocked me, in the heat of the moment I stepped in on him and popped him in the lower jaw in an upward motion. He goes stumbling backward, trying to grab nearby people to try and stop his fall, to no avail, and ends up falling butt first into a small and lit built-in fireplace in the living room. There he becomes stuck, with his arms, legs and head sticking out. It wasn't only funny because I got what I deserved, I'll admit to being sort of a dickhead at the time, but because I cannot forget the look on the guy's face while he was stuck. It was a cross between a desperate plea for help, which nobody wanted to give him because he was such a dong, and a I'm gonna kill you when I get out of here anger. Good times. Good times. While I was playing Pokemon with my friend, he borrowed my Game Boy to do some battles. He got the bright idea to finally get the third starter Pokemon, Bulbasaur. I had Squirtle and he chose Charmander, by starting my game anew and trading Bulbasaur to himself. So he saved over my game of 138 Pokemon. When he told me I was holding onto a little Pikachu plastic toy thingy, I told him I was okay with it, acted like it was not a big deal. I took the Pikachu toy and said, "Watch this," and launched it up into the air. While he was watching it soar, I socked him in the mouth and cut my hand on his braces, and the neighbor had to stop us from punching each other while rolling around in his freshly laid mulch. I think deleting or overwriting a save from any game is fight worthy, much less doing it for selfish reasons. Your story is actually really adorable in a twisted kinda way. I got in a fight with my friend in 7th grade because we both liked the same boy, but he flirted with me and not my friend. This quote that follows is burnt into my memory. Friend, I can't stand you. Our crush. You guys. Friends come and go but best friends are forever. Friend, not her. Then we be fought. We're not friends anymore. I was always intrigued by the fights my sister would have with her friends. As a guy, I don't think I ever had a friendship end, more like they just fade away, but with my sister some crap would go down and they'd cease to be friends. I changed the channel from MTV's Headbangers Ball once. Back in the day, my sister pulled a kitchen knife on me and chased me out the front door. Looking back, I deserve it. You definitely deserve it, especially since this was back in the day when everything was better. I'm 6 feet 5, 255 pounds and lift weights about 5 times a week. A little while back this short little fella, about 5 feet 2, ran up to me in a bar and punched me as hard as could in the nuts. I hit the floor like a sack of potatoes and he walked back to his friends, high-fiving them and laughing. I don't know why he did it, but they stopped laughing when I hit him in the side with a metal bar stool I swung like a baseball bat. It sent this little bastard into the wall and knocked him out cold. After a whole lot of trash talking, the police finally showed up, heard the story, and let me go home and took that guy to the hospital. The EMTs thought I had broke his arm and some ribs. I still wanna know why he thought it was a good idea. After the first 4 words, I was expecting pants to be stolen. Made an insulting, passing comment to a guy wearing spandex pants at midnight on a Friday night. He calls his buddies. They show up. Big brawl between them and my crew. So stupid. Never insult a man wearing spandex at midnight, especially on a Friday night. It was definitely a trap. Outside waiting for soccer practice, I accidentally kick over a can of Mountain Dew. The owner had serious ADHD and started freaking out. He lunges at me and tries to tackle me. He must have forgotten I was a state champion wrestler. I chuck him to the ground, pin him in place and try to calm him down. Dude, it was a freaking soda. Coach comes over and we have to run 40 laps around the soccer field for fighting. The kid quits the team at lap 30. He dropped out of high school later that year. TL. DR. Don't the Dew. It sounds like you ruined that guy's life by kicking his soda. Real smooth. I have a sinking feeling this will get buried, but I figured I'd post anyhow. The situation seems silly as heck to me, but I do feel kinda bad for the other guy. A couple of years ago, I headed to my hometown to hang with a buddy at the local bar and have a few brews and shoot the crap. We get there, much drinking is done, and after a couple of hours he takes off early to go hang with his lady. I run into a guy from high school, so I stay and have a few more, deciding to crash in town for the night. A group of guys and ladies come stumbling in, having hit the few other bars in town first, and slam down next to me at the bar. After a few more drinks, we all start chatting and much fun is had. However, I get up to take a leak, and when I return and sit down to resume the conversation, the drunkest of the pack gets in my face for talking to his gal, despite us already sharing words. So, as these things go, he gets up, I get up, and he starts shoving me and crap talking. I'm drunk enough that I'm just laughing at all of this, not quite sure he isn't frickin' with me. As he continues to yell, he pulls his fist back and goes to punch me, and I, to the confusion of all, start to wave my arms as if to say hold up, then sneeze directly into his yelling face. Everybody just stops and I swear the bar went quiet. His friends burst into laughter, which starts the rest of the patrons, myself included, roaring with everything from knee-slapping laughter to fits of hardly controlled giggles. The dude looks at me and isn't even angry. He has the look of a dog that just got thwapped with a well-rolled up newspaper. Eventually, he leaves, getting a ride from one of the less hammered folk, and the rest of the group and I continue to enjoy the evening. TLDR, the sneeze that caused a glorious drunken victory. I'm 6 feet 5 inches, 250 pounds. Trying to make my way through a packed nightclub years ago, I apparently shoved some girl accidentally. She didn't fall or anything, just got shoved a little. Her tiny little boyfriend decided he was going to kick my butt, and of course, he knew karate. I couldn't help but laugh out loud, which only angered him more. Then I tried to explain to him that I had about 100 pounds on him and that there was no way in heck he could even hurt me, and that this was really nothing to fight about, and that it's better to just let it go instead of getting seriously injured out of pride. So he punched me in the face. I grabbed both his arms and punched him with his own fists, yelling, "Why are you hitting yourself? Why are you hitting yourself?" Then I stole his pants. I bet his girlfriend broke up with him after that. My best friend and I spent an hour screaming at each other over Skype about whether or not the Green Lantern's power ring was better than a Death Note. Power ring. You can't really gain anything from the Death Note without going full evil. Yeah, it has raw godlike power, but uses are limited to just killing people. There's also the whole damning your soul to eternal oblivion. The power ring has a variety of amazing, and more fun, uses without any downside. The Death Note is nothing short of a curse disguised as power from beginning to end. One day my ex calls me on the way home from work and asks me what I want to do for dinner. I told her I didn't really care and asked if she could make chili, cause she made good chili. She tells me okay but says she needs some canned tomatoes, so I tell her that's cool, I'll pick some up. When I get home she's in the kitchen browning hamburger and banging the pots around like crazy. I take her the tomatoes and ask what's wrong and she tells me nothing. Right. So she opens 2 tomatoes and pours them into the pot, and instead of throwing the cans out flings each of them across the kitchen into the wall, making a mess with leftover juice and little bits in the can. So at this point I ask her WTF is wrong with her, and she goes off of how I forced her to make dinner and didn't even ask to take her out or pick something up. When I bring logic into it and explain all she did was ask me what I wanted for dinner, she gets pee and tells me I should have known by the way she asked that she didn't want to go out. I believe at this point I told her she was effing crazy and we spent the next 30 minutes arguing. TLDR. My crazy ex-wife got raging because she asked what I wanted for dinner and I didn't know that meant she wanted to go out. For what it's worth, I have dozens more like that. Like the time she got because I didn't know she wanted a hot dog at the movies. I'm the oldest of 4 kids. At present our ages are 24, 22, 20, and 17. I went home for Christmas and my family I got in a gigantic argument about who has the right to complain about the 22-year-old. We literally screamed at each other for a solid 10 minutes about who gets to complain about who. Essentially it came down to my mom and I being able to complain about everyone and the youngest 2 having to keep their mouths shut because they still cost the family a lot of money. The unfortunate part was that the 22-year-old was not there to witness it. Probably would have made the argument last an hour. I had an argument with my current roommate about if Matt Hasselbeck, former QB for Seattle, Now Tennessee was a top 10 QB from 2005 to 2008. It escalated to having to break us up because punches were getting ready to happen. Next day we were just like, what the fuck? This is kind of normal. One of the best way to earn a man's respect is to fight him. So long as is it not gang racially affiliated, and it's just two frustrated guys wailing on each other, it usually ends with a mutual respect gained by both parties. It feels good to fight once in a while, and after you let it all out, you realize you were a dong and the other guy isn't so bad. It did feel great. A lot of people look down upon it. I think if both parties wanna engage into a fair fight, then I say go for it, so long as it doesn't get out of control. Talking about getting a pet with my girl, I want either a big dog or something cool as frick like a fox. She said she wants a pig, which I am not down for. This crap still gets brought up to this day. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.